It's programmed, it dumps into the manhole. It's not across the neighbor's backyard. And dumps into the manhole in the neighbor's backyard, and it's broke right where it drops into the manhole. Away from the line.
I'd like to call to order the August 12, 2026 meeting of the Ottawa Planning Commission. Let's call the roll, please.
Member Harris,
Here.
Vice Chair Kane,
Here.
Member Cohen,
I'm here.
Chair Maxwell,
Here.
Member Stresnick Dean,
Here.
Member Ogle,
Here.
Member Griffith.
Here.
Thank you. Let's move to the consent agenda. You have the minutes from the July 8th meeting. If there are any changes, please note them now. If I hear none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move.
A motion
On the consent agenda.
Okay. Second. And a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. They're passed. This time, I'd like to give the Planning Commission members a chance to declare any conflict or communication they have had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Hearing none, we will move to the public hearing, and at this point, I will open the public hearing on the capital improvement program.
Thank you. The capital improvement program is a portion of the planning process that the city undergoes annually as part of our budget planning process as well. And we brought this to you a couple of times for your review. Really, your role in this whole process is to determine whether or not you find the capital improvement program in conformance with the comprehensive plan. And so by reviewing it twice with you and then holding the public hearing, we give opportunity to the public to have any input that they might want to bring to your attention over whether or not it does conform with the plan. And then it will go to the city commission for their final adoption on September 2nd. The capital improvement program is a 5-year, for the city of Ottawa, it's 5-year. For some cities, it's longer, but it's a multi-year planning tool that we use to identify our priorities for capital projects, the funding, and we update it annually. And while any one project might be slated or planned for any one year, oftentimes you see those projects move up or back depending upon the amount of funding that becomes available for that project. We do offer public input early in the process. So early in the year, we give an opportunity to the public to submit any new ideas or projects that they'd like to see considered for this. And in this year, for 2027, we had 23 submissions. So we've covered those with you in previous meetings, and also they're included in your packet as well. The Planning Commission then holds the public hearing, which we're in currently, and then you'll determine after this with the vote of finding in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The CIP that we have reviewed with you so far is made up of many departments, divisions, functions. This is a breakdown of the current plan. You can see that a large majority of it is focused on parks and sidewalks, stormwater, the airport, and the electric utility, with some of the other divisions, they're playing a much smaller part in the overall plan for the next 5 years. This is a breakdown by estimated dollar amount, project amount for each one of those divisions. I do want to point out that these dollar amounts do not indicate that every one of these dollars are property tax funded dollars for any one of these projects. And so if you were listening into the city commission meeting earlier this evening, we had a great presentation from our city clerk, Sherman, who gave a grant update from this year all the way through July, and pointed out that we have brought in, been awarded over $3.5 million in grants so far this year, and we still have 30 plus applications pending for other grants. So we do use grant opportunities to supplement any other source of funding that we have for these projects. So this is really just broken down by department. I believe also we've talked about in previous meetings, I think it's important because we do have some public here, that some of those dollars that we're allocating towards these projects, we are unknown at this point. So they might say that they're going to be long-term debt, but if a grant opportunity comes up or there's another opportunity to push a project sooner, then that's when we end up moving them up or back in the timeline. A perfect example is when federal grant opportunities or federal appropriation money becomes available, oftentimes we will put out as many projects as we can in front of our legislators to say, these are the big ticket projects that we have in Ottawa, and we'll bring them here and they will visit Ottawa and they will come and see why those projects are so important to our community. And we've been lucky to bring in those dollars from federal appropriations, not just through the grant process, but our legislators have been have found value in those projects and improving Ottawa's infrastructure. This is a breakdown by funding source. So as you can see, I was mentioning that the grant side of this chart, you can see, makes up a very large portion of the overall grant funding. Some of it is indicated as long-term debt on the left. However, I believe nearly all of that is funded by other sources. So for example, a $10 million or $8 million electric fund project may have to be long-term financed because there's not cash available, but the electric fund will pay for that. So that does not mean that that is property tax driven debt.
So the 46% that is long-term debt is driven by property tax?
It is not. So for example, some of that would be a proposed aquatic center, outdoor pool, whatever that project might end up being. It would have to be funded long-term through geo bonds, but the funding source from that would be quality of life sales tax. So not property taxes. There's an electric utility project that's in here that's significant in dollars, and it would need to be probably a 15 or 20 year geo bond in order for our electric utility to accomplish paying for that. But those funds are still coming from the electric utility. So technically it's long-term debt, but it's funded by another source. And this breakdown here is just by funding source as well. And you can see that we have really pushed most of those projects into the most current years, and largely because we're going after so many grant dollars to subsidize these projects that typically those grantors, those granting agencies want to see that is an immediate need. It is a project that you're already planning on doing. Oftentimes they want to see that a design has already been done, or there's a study that indicates that it actually needs to be done. And then there's an estimated cost to go along with that. So with all of that said, and because it's our public hearing, I will stand for any questions that you have of me, and then leave the floor for any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? We've had some opportunities that maybe we haven't done before, so.
I may be missing something here, but I'm curious, on none of your charts that show where the money's going to, I haven't seen anything on the streets.
So the street program is a maintenance program, and we talked about, maybe we talked about this in our first overview, where the streets plan will be an exhibit to the capital improvement program, but it's not included in the capital improvement program. In fact, we did have a study session with the commission not that long ago where we talked about how we might be able to use a portion of the quality of life sales tax to be able to help fund the street plan. And so that discussion led to using cash over the next 3 years before we get into maybe the next 10-year term to be able to accomplish a lot of those mill and overlay projects, and then be able to design and possibly determine how we'll do some of those really large reconstruction projects. So for the time being, the street projects won't necessarily show up in here. Likewise, there is not a full connectivity or sidewalk or trail plan included in here either. Because right now we're tackling those biggest issues that we can with the funds that we have available. The we would also include as an exhibit potentially a water line repair or replacement, like a water main replacement program. Eventually, those are the types of exhibits that you might see attached to a CIP program. But this is typically large construction projects that might otherwise get grant funding or need an additional funding source, or they're infrastructure related. I say that streets are infrastructure related, but until we're doing a planned reconstruction project, typical mill and overlay is handled as a maintenance item.
Okay, I was just curious because I see stuff in here for the water department, stormwater, sidewalks, and didn't see anything about the streets is the reason I asked.
That's right. So my explanation still stands. So the stormwater project is that we're waiting on the grant, or I'm sorry, the study to come back from, it's a federal program through the Corps of Engineers, and we've worked with them to get some grant funding to conduct the past study, which would help indicate which ones of those new reconstruction projects would be happening in the future. So those aren't just simply maintenance, but they would require some design and construction in those projects. The water utility projects, I think we talked about previously, we did include them originally. So a few years ago, we started including the water utility projects in there. They are main replacements. Typically, you wouldn't see them in a capital improvement program because we don't put in there the wastewater line repair, the relining projects, or just some basic electric maintenance programs. But there were some significant dollars attached to those water main replacements. And at that time, we were contemplating a rate increase. And so we wanted to demonstrate to the public what those large projects were so that people understood how those come about. We are in the final 2 or 3 years of that 5-year program that we'd placed in the CIP. And going forward, we'll continue to attach that as maybe an exhibit so that while people can become aware of the types of main replacement projects we might have in the pipeline, we do maintenance to our water utility lines all the time. Likewise with our wastewater and our electric utility as well.
So as we go forward, when I'm looking at like 2028, 2029, then depending on what we receive for grants, that's going to expand that category.
It could.
It's pretty slim in the out years.
It does. You're right. Because largely many of our funding sources will be used in some of these projects that we have upcoming. So for example, those couple of larger projects that you see in 28 and 29, one of them is the system conversion project for the electric utility. It still has a design phase to it, and it will take multiple years to construct. So by the time we get to a general obligation bond, this is a funding summary, by the time we get to a payment on that, it will be in 28 or 29 before that project will be fully completed and on the books as being fully funded. The other project that I believe is included there is the potential aquatic center, of which we want to do some study, and there would be a design phase that would have to happen there as well. So construction wouldn't happen until a couple of years from now, just based on the normal timeline for construction of an aquatic facility.
If you build in an inflation
We do, depending on the project, we do. A lot of times, once you have an initial estimate, we've typically gotten that from a study of some sort. So it depends on whether or not we think that project cost will have changed, or whether it is something that's going to be structured based on the amount of funding that's available. So for example, a future aquatic center might be structured, the style and the components of that aquatic center might be structured based on the amount of money that you can afford for the debt financing for that facility. But if you have a project that, like the river crossing, that might have been in there for several years, then we would try and accelerate that amount in our estimates to make sure that we're covered. So all of those questions are great questions. To bring us back to the content of the public hearing, which is for this board to determine whether or not this CIP program is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, and we are still under a public hearing. So I will step aside in case you have any questions from the public. And if not, then I can come back and bring us to the findings.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Other comments or questions from the audience? Please step up to the podium and identify yourself, please. Up here so we can hear you. That's
I didn't see a space on the agenda for public comments. So that's my confusion.
well, it's happening as part of the public hearing that we're in right now.
So this is it, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah, good. Thank you.
as long as you're addressing the item that's in open hearing.
I am addressing a small part of the capital improvement program from 2000.
Sir, can you state your name for the record? Your name and your address.
My name is Scott Jurgen. I live at 3332 Rock Creek Road, Ottawa, Kansas.
Thank you.
And I'm addressing a fairly small part of the capital improvement program.
Okay.
And am I following protocol?
Yes,
so
go right
far?
ahead. Go right ahead.
I have a few copies for the members of the commission. But I don't think I have. No. I'm sorry to take your time.
No, that's what a public hearing is for, is to give you the
I
opportunity.
don't think taking your time, I'd rather be home drinking wine. Thank you.
Okay.
So I wish there were enough copies. I'll try to speak more quickly. I think the capital improvement program for the city between 2027, 2031 includes 1.382, well, 1,382,000 paid by Ottawa for expansion of the airport. So I'm concentrating on the airport runway expansion. I live 2 miles east of the airport, and the airport has always been, so my wife and I own a small farm there, and the airport is friendly to the airport. So I read the master plan for the airport. It was published in 2017. And the data is it's not new. So is that for me or is that for you? Okay. Am I on a timer?
Yes, we allow 3 minutes, but
3 minutes.
if
is
we can,
not-
if we could ask you to just kind of summarize where you're headed with this and what you wanted us to hear.
3 minutes is not fair. It's $3 million. 3 minutes, that's $1 million a minute. It's a feature of this city. It's not right. The population forecast by the airport 2017 master plan don't bear out. They're not supported by the 2026 U.S. Census Bureau population data for the county. They're not supported by the Wichita State Economic Data and Business Forecasting Center. So the population forecasts for this county are off in the master plan. Furthermore, the operations forecasts in the master plan do not match with the FAA forecast. They're way off by 100% on the operations regarding takeoff and landing. So your data is misplaced. I'm not unfriendly to the airport, but the master plan for the airports justifies the extension of the airport runway 1,000 feet by the population of the forecast for the county. They do not bear out. So if you want to extend the airport or the runway of the airport, you will not do it based on the master plan. You'll do it based on something else, a sparrow's flight, but not the master plan. And you have to read this, you have to read to understand what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the FAA's operations data for takeoff and landing for this airport do not match the 2017 master plan for the airport. They don't match. You understand what I'm saying? Do you? 3 minutes is not good enough for $3 million.
We thank you, though, for your comments and the work that you
I
did
don't
to
think you do.
put this together.
But I'm listening. Thank you.
Any reaction or other comments to be made? Yes, go ahead.
Well, I guess this would be a question for Ms. Landis. Based on what Mr. Jurgen said, if I understand what he said correctly, the money to justify the airport improvements is supposedly based off of the air traffic coming in and out. Is that correct?
Sir,
Okay.
sir, we can't hear what you're stating if you're not at the microphone.
So
You guys-
it's based on the population of
You
the
guys, I
county.
don't mean to be antagonistic.
So,
The airport is, I live close to the airport. It's the airport, I'm not unkind to the airport. It's just fine. And you're nice. So the master plans forecast for population and aircraft operations, those are takeoff and landing forecasts. They do not match the U.S. Census Bureau forecast, and they don't match the FAA's forecast for takeoff and landings. So the master plan, and it was the last update is 2017. Well, it was 2016. It was published in 2017. So the FAA, I can get the FAA updates on takeoff and landings from the FAA operations report on the FAA website. And so the master plan is off by 100% on takeoff and landings. It's 100% too optimistic. So you can expand the airport. That's okay. The airport's okay. I live close to it. But you're not expanding it based on your master plan. You're expanding it based on hope. And I think the question is, should you expand the airport based on population data and economic real GDP forecast for the county? Or should you build the airport and hope people will come? And I think if you spend the monies, you're doing the latter. And I would rather you do the former. You have the population here, the real GDP forecast for the county, but the population is not here. It will decline over the next 30 years based on very good evidence. And I cite the evidence in my paper. And it's a sad thing. I want the county to grow. And the FAA says the evidence not there either. So
What's the date of the Wichita State Economic Development Research? You're using Wichita State University Center of Economic Development and Business Research. What's the date of that report? Is that current or? So where would I?
and so you can go online and see that. And it's interesting to me. So I'm not anti.
Sir, the people,
Oh,
sorry. If anybody's listening online, they can't hear what you're,
oh,
yeah, if anybody's listening online, they can't hear what you're saying.
oh, yeah, okay, all right.
And the reason I ask is that it has implications for a lot of things on this CIP.
Yeah, so the Wichita State University's economic forecasts are current. So they don't forecast everything. And I don't know the statistics regarding how they formulate the forecast. That's a weakness I have. I can say that the Kansas Water Office uses Wichita State's Economic Forecasting Center for forecasting water needs in the Maritime watershed. And so that doesn't mean it's reliable. And so I think I'm really saying I can't speak about the reliability of Wichita State's forecasts. But it's the best I can do. And they're more up to date than the airport's master plan, which published in 2017, and it is based on data 2016 and earlier. So,
When we look at the CIP, are we looking at, what are we using as an estimate as to what our growth would be in Ottawa, the city of Ottawa? We have an overlay of estimated growth over a period of time.
When we're putting together the CIP, we are focused on the major projects that are being put together. We still would engage a design firm. I believe that we have chosen Benesch out of Manhattan, and they will do the study and the design or work with a design firm for the extension of the runway. And that, as far as population, all of those things and how this project was put together, I don't have that information in front of me. And I appreciate all of the comments and the questions about how it was put together. Ultimately, at this time, this board's position for approving or findings for this public hearing is to determine whether or not This conforms with your comprehensive plan. The ultimate decision for whether or not a project moves ahead is ultimately down the road in the hands of the city commission, but also whether or not they approve it as part of the plan. Again, all of these details can change as we move ahead, but we did receive already a federal appropriation of a large sum towards the runway extension project. And it has been contemplated for a number of years, that would be an extension that we would be working towards.
Don't most of the funds for the airport come through federal aviation grants? We put in some of our money. Some are required matches, I suppose, or just to make up the difference. But most of the money for the airport comes from federal aviation grants.
That's true. In fact, for our current runway reconstruction project that we are just now completing, we also used KDOT funding as well as FAA funding, and so we use a large variety of other funds.
Were any ARPA funds used at the airport?
I don't believe so.
If I asked if any ARPA funds were used at the airport. Yeah, money from the COVID.
The federal COVID relief funds that filtered through the state.
So presumably, to get those grants at the federal level and at KDOT, a lot of these studies and these numbers would have had to have been presented to apply for those grants.
Yes, they would have seen the project, contemplated the project, and then brought it forth. So the federal appropriation was contemplated at the federal level for just dollars to be brought to our airport, and then the project determined after that, so the extension. But before that, there were other FAA dollars and the KDOT dollars that were placed towards the reconstruction project of the runway. So yes, typically always we have sent them with a bunch of information about the project. Anytime there's a grant application, we have to provide a lot of data and background information in order to even apply for grants. So there's varying requirements when you're asking for federal and state funds.
And having served on the airport board once upon a time, I know that the hope is that maybe we might get a business that locates out there at the airport if we've made enough improvements to attract some. And there's a lot of money to be made in fuel sales and things like that if that should occur. So that's some of it.
That's true. We do have an existing business that's expanding at this moment at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Long and the short of what you're saying is, this isn't just something the city decided, oh, let's just expand our airport and see what happens. There was a lot of research and data compiled by the FAA and other groups that went into the decision to spend this kind of money. And obviously, the FAA is not going to come up with however many, 3 million plus, without at least some sort of justification.
Yes. And a lot of our master plans that are in place right now, they are a tad bit older, and we do need to update those 10, 15, and 20 years. But oftentimes master plans are just directing us pushing us in the direction of where we think that we'll eventually be. But I can't answer all the specific details about the existing airport master plan and the concerns that were brought to you tonight. Ultimately, though, in the end, you're right. The details for the funding for the project would have been great in order to send off to even receive the grant acknowledgement in the federal appropriation. But even beyond that, again, this board is really just weighing in this evening on the conformance with the master or with the comprehensive plan.
One last comment, please.
You guys are very generous. So looking at the comprehensive plan for the airport, 2027 through 2031, Ottawa will pay in, the city of Ottawa will pay in $382,450. And that's the minority of the monies. The FFA or the FAA will pay in most of the monies. The FAA says that what makes air traffic go in this country is it's economic activity. It's long-term aviation is driven by economic activity. And I believe that's right. So I like this county, I live in it. The forecast for economic activity in this county by that Economic Data Forecasting Center at Wichita State, the real GDP in this county has dropped in the last 4 years. That's sad to me. I live here. I love this county. And so I think for you, it's a choice between following the data and spending the money and hoping it'll get better. So I'm kind of a data guy. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay, at this point, I'm closing the public hearing. Not now, since I've closed the hearing.
I think we can do that. Jack, she signed up.
Oh, you signed up? Oh, I'm sorry.
signed up.
I didn't understand. I am so sorry. All right. I had moved to close the public hearing, and that was inappropriate on my part. I did not hear you say you had signed up. I am sorry. So, so please.
My name is Polly Steamer, and I'm married to Scott Jurgen. We live at 3332 Rock Creek Road. So we've been talking about the airport, and so I was kind of doing my own work on this. I started to look at the numbers because I was hearing that 90% of the runway extension would be paid for by grants, and Ottawa would have to pay maybe 10%, but maybe not the full 10%. So I kind of went through the numbers on that you've seen up there and added up in, let's see, 2026, Ottawa spent out of the airport fund over almost $200,000. Capital Improvement Fund, again from Ottawa, $100,000. There was a KDOT grant, and I have a question. Could that have been spent on other streets or transportation issues? No. Only it was dedicated to the airport, not by Ottawa or by Kansas?
Oh, no, go ahead and finish on that.
Okay, so that kind of makes a difference. That's a hunk of money. 2027, there was a total of, it looks like $4,029,500 with the $880 from 2026. That's $4,910, or which, if the 10% were right, Ottawa would only spend $491,000. So when I added up everything Ottawa was spending, not including the $600,000, Ottawa will have spent, by the time the project is complete, $1,256,550, which is 25.5% about of the total amount of the airport runway extension. So that's a kind of a discrepancy. I mean, I could be wrong about the numbers. But I just would, when you hear those things like, oh, 90% of this is covered by grants, but what we're actually paying is over 25% from our pocketbooks here in Ottawa. I think those things, I don't know, need to be addressed.
Thank you.
To answer the question, if you're interested, the KDOT grants are similar to any other grant. An application has to be submitted. It's very specific to the project. And then the award is specific to the project as well.
Thank you. Well, I'll close the hearing again at this point. Let me remind my colleagues up here that what I think our purpose is, and that is that we're simply to indicate conformity of this with the comprehensive plan. It's not our role to examine budgets and make those kinds of decisions. We don't get to make those kinds of decisions. So it really has to do with basically almost the philosophy here. It's a little higher level kind of decision than that. That's what the Planning Commission's called to do. So as we consider this, that's what we need to be considering is the conformancy question. At this point, we need to take an action. That's clear. That's necessary for us to do tonight to keep the process moving. So I would entertain a motion at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to find the 27 to 31 capital improvement plan in conformity with the comprehensive plan.
I have a motion. Do I
I'll
have a second? Second? We have a second. All right. We will be ready to vote. Those in favor of the motion indicate by,
It should be a roll call.
It's a roll call.
oh, it's a roll call vote. I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you.
I vote yes.
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 Member Stress 16,
Yes.
Chair Maxwell,
Yes.
Member Ogle. Yes. And then, Member Griffith.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. There is no unfinished business listed. So we will go to new business, which is a comprehensive plan update.
Yes. So I don't have a huge update for you guys, but we will have a draft at the joint meeting that will be August 26th at 4 o'clock. That's joint with Planning Commission and City Commission. More details will come out. It's not a big deal. If you guys can't attend, you will have more opportunities to review the draft other than the one that's planned at the joint meeting. And City Manager Mahdi also wanted me to pass on that we're still on track with the contract. So we're still chugging along.
All right.
Contract for what?
For the comprehensive plan.
You okay?
Yeah, it just puzzled me. You said contract and I
Yeah.
thought, where are we
Right.
going with
No,
this?
it's fine. So
Comprehensive plans on the.
all right, move to comments. Any staff comments?
Yeah, I don't see any conflict with the overall plan as far as the areas that are covered, but are we authorized to see the background information on these? I mean, is it personal interest? In other words, what are the growth factors? What are the expansion factors? What are they using in order to come up with this comprehensive plan? What are they using as a data point?
Not sure I really have the answer for you. That would be something to certainly ask Confluence when you get the chance on where they came up with anything that you're not seeing line up.
So, other comments?
I just want to, like to say, we're not here to make a decision on whether to do it.
Right.
It's just a matter of whether or not it falls in.
Right. Right.
But for personal information. just wanted to make that.
And maybe I was speaking on the wrong thing. Were you talking about the CIP or the new comprehensive plan?
The new comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
just so I know some background
Sure.
information on it.
Yeah, that would certainly be something to ask Confluence on. They would have more of the answer on that.
Any other commissioner comments?
Yeah, just a couple. First of all, thank you to the city for putting in a crosswalk signal at 15th and Ash. That should hopefully reduce the number of mishaps in that intersection, hopefully. I don't want to see another kid get hit or another pedestrian for that matter. So thank you to the city for that because I live in that area. And then one other thing is, and this may be more of an issue with the police department question, but are we allowed to park semi trucks in our front yard? Because
I'm more than happy to bring that to Chief Weingartner.
yeah, that was interesting to
Get
see.
back with you. Yeah, I'll let them.
All right.
Maybe it's yard art.
It may be. Any other commissioner comments? In that case, let's go to announcements, which will be the meetings, the upcoming meetings, August 27 at noon and September 9 at 7 p.m. At this point, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. We are